Finally back again. Missed a few days. Too busy, sometimes just too beat up. I'll be getting up early every couple days, every 2 days, get up at 4 o'clock, then taking off. Sometimes after about 80 kilometers down a logging road. And what I've been doing by myself and as well with a friend of mine is we're looking for elusive monster Roosevelt elk bulls. It's exciting. This is, I mean, they live in a rainforest, basically in a jungle. 9 out of 10 times, 9/10 of the year, right? The big monster old ones go off by themselves. There's grumpy old dogs and hang out and hide out, and they're elusive. You never see them ever, and there's no telling where they went, where they go. You can't go look for their antlers after they fell off, which kind of sucks where we are. And it's right now it's during the rut here, and it's starting to taper right off. So it's almost like it's a panic to possibly try to find that that elusive animal that no one ever sees and catch it on film. That's my goal. And then my other friend who comes out, he's just as keen on seeing them alive as well. And he also coincidentally just successfully guided a Roosevelt elk hunt on Vancouver Island last week. So we both get up early in the morning. A friend of mine lives like 2 minutes away. We pile in the truck and take off and go looking. And I don't bring a rifle or anything. I just bring all my camera gear. And it's tough because it still hasn't rained. So the dry, hot weather affects them too. It makes them tougher to find. They just hole up in the deep timber in the river bottoms and they stay there. And there's nothing you can do about it. So we went again yesterday. I went to a new zone because what happened was a friend of mine who lives in a remote coastal town, and he's also a past hunting guide. Well, he's driving home from up north. I think he's on his way home, and he has to travel that 85 kilometers of logging roads just to get back to their home, which is on the ocean. It's a fishing lodge. And he stops to take a pee, and all of a sudden hears this elk screaming his guts out right across the logging road, goes and looks and gets this quick snapshot of this absolute monstrous beast of an elk, easily 1,000 pounds plus. And he is right where I've been trying to find him. I'd love to find that monster elk and get some real cool high-def video of them. They're so elusive, right? And we drive through that area every year, dozens of times, getting to where the boats are tied up. I've never seen them there, ever. And he's been sitting there, running around there, living his life, absolutely elusive. And for me, it just drives me crazy because I love looking for that elusive buck that nobody ever sees, or that elusive bull, whatever. And I love it. Like as an example, I chased down one buck one time. I was aware of him for 5 years and kept him in the back of my mind until he finally matured past his prime. And I only physically saw him twice in 5 years, and I intentionally went looking for him every year. I love it. It's fun. So I went yesterday, and all we did was find a bunch of cows. I got one reply in the middle of the night, in the dark, not middle of the night, but 5 in the morning. I was bugling in the dark to see if I could get him to reply, and I got one reply, and that's it. He shut up. And we went back up there later again when you could see, and found a part of his herd down in the dark timber, and I videotaped them. Shared it. I would have shared it at the beginning of this video, I hope. So that's what I've been doing. And by the time I get home and do all the chores done, I'm just absolutely beat, and haven't made a couple of videos for a couple of days, but there's so much to share, it's stupid. What else? Yeah, today I gotta go murder, I gotta kill 7 roosters. I finally laid down the law, and I've completely fenced in the laying hens area, coop, to keep them all in there. They're shitting all over the frickin' back porch, shitting everywhere. It's just disgusting. You just can't have that happen in your home. But unfortunately, the 7 roosters in there are just having a frickin' rape fest. It's kind of nasty to witness, so they gotta go. And I actually nicknamed the coop Epstein Coop. Epstein Chicken Coop. And I actually named a bunch of the roosters. One's named Bill Gates. Another one's named Clinton. And I named a handful of other rapist celebrities who took advantage of all those poor young people on Epstein Island. So yeah, it's kind of sad, kind of creepy. Anyway, I'm not really in that much of a funny mode this morning. So, what else? Moving along. Oh, hold on a minute. Something I haven't been doing. You know, like I said before, you guys, I don't encourage people to send me things ever, all right? But people seem adamant at times, and they want my address and they want to send me something. So, okay, here you go. Just make sure it doesn't explode. So, I have a couple packages here. Said to me, don't know what they are, don't know who they're from. Just don't know. We're gonna find out. And here's the number 2 knife that was sent to me, and I've already used it on my elk. And yes, this was meant for Sarah, but it's mine. Don't worry, I told her. I showed her. She gets it. Alright, what do we got? This is from, there's a note here. Steve, I thought you might enjoy these gifts and maybe use in your videos once or so. Have fun with them. Alright, Candy, here we go. What are in these boxes? Hopefully they don't blow up. I'm sure they would have by now, I'm guessing. I don't know what that is. A bullshit button? It says that's bullshit. It's a button. You put a battery in it. That's kind of different. I think I understand it. It's a button to put on the desk while making videos at home, and you hit the bullshit button maybe. Asshole button. Alright, that's a different kind of gift. I don't know if I'll be using those because I rarely, all I always do is on the channel is say to people, take forever what you will or leave it. So, thanks for saying that, I think, Candy. That's interesting. Random. Electronic. One more. Let's see what this is. Alright, this is from Douglas White from North Carolina. This has been opened en route and taped up a few times, obviously by the looks of it, eh? By our ever so caring governments at the border. So caring. Gotta be careful with the citizens ship, as our governments are shipping nothing but killing machines across the country to the Ukraine, right? Alright, what do we got? Holy shit, another knife. Wow, look at that one. That's quite the leather sheath for it, isn't it? That is a full-on Skinner there. A sharp one. Canadian steel. Huh. Another knife. Holy shit. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all these knives, you guys. I try to use them all, but usually I've only got like 1 or 2 knives and that's it. But that's a very kind gesture, very kind gift. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doug. That's pretty cool. And like I said to you guys, sometimes I don't know why gifts just make me feel kind of awkward sometimes. I wasn't really accustomed to receiving gifts through my lifetime. But anyway, thank you so much. And to everybody else, no, I don't encourage people to send me stuff, okay, you guys? Out of respect for you guys too, I'll open them on video. What'd I do with that little knife? All right, I think the letter's meant for me to read out. Here we go. It's handwritten. It's handwritten better than I can write, but it's still probably gonna be tough for me to read, so I'm gonna have a go at it. Ready? Hello, Steve. I hope this finds you well and rested from your time in the wilds. I know when you get on the downside of 50 that it takes longer to recuperate. It's been a refreshing change to watch your videos, despite the mispronunciations. I know how hard it is to say Adirondack. I actually intentionally say different variations just because it's fun to stick it to those New Yorkers sometimes, because they love it. I hope you don't take my teasing to heart. Never. I would never. You have... I can't read that the bracket part. Anyhow, I want to present you with a gift. It was given to me by an army brother. We went through a lot of shit together in the 80s. While we weren't at war, we provided nighttime border patrol on the former West German-Czech border. He was a Mi'kmaq native of the Aroostook. I can't read that one. I hope I'm not butchering it. Aroostok tribe from northern Maine and passed on a few years ago. I've had this for over 40 years and received it in a small ceremony at his council. He told me it's a moose skinner. We don't see many moose here in North Carolina. I thought you might be able to put it to better use than just sitting in my collection. I hope that one day, if you ever get out of the Great White North again and make it to the south, you'll do me the honor of taking you out for a beer or a coffee. Warm regards, Douglas White. P.S. Semi-retired photographer. I love your cinematography. Apologize for my penmanship. It's worse than your pronunciation. Oh yeah, boom. Okay, man. Wow, that's a huge gift. Wow, that's a very, very huge gift. And I will, in honor of that man, for sure, I will put this to use on one of my big game harvests for certain. And we'll never forget that man, will we? Appreciate that, man. Kind people here, isn't there? There's so many kind people here. Put that away. Now, these are about to get lost. Holy shit, I think I just saw a fish move over there. Let's get some listening in, some reading and listening to some voices that need to be heard, alright? Need to be heard. Now, okay, remember last time out I had one that was very long, and I said I would rename it number 1 to put a list, so I got that at the top. We're going to read a monster email from Australia. Here's a short one. We'll start off with a short one. This is titled, A Haunting Curiosity. Hey Steve, why, after watching you for quite a while and doing my own research, am I still confused? Could it be the fact that I'm just halfway through 19, almost 20, or that I have no wilderness experience at all? LOL. My name is Joshua, and I'm from Utah, and I'm getting ready for college football. So, name and state is all I'll give. Alright, man. I'm going to be straightforward. I have no experiences or encounters with the hairy beings, but hearing these stories makes me think about all the people who tell them. They're all old. No offense, LOL. I love this community. My point is, why? Why hide all these amazing secrets till now? My late grandfather, who passed back in 2018, and my grandmother, who passed just a couple months after due to heartbreak, both had things that have happened I've never heard before, but will eventually hear later about from someone else's experience, because that's the trend that seems to happen. I'm going to be sharing a small experience now. Back when I was around 6 years old, my grandfather would take care of me throughout the day and, while my mother was at work. There were days when she would stay late for work, and I remember one of the first nights she stayed late. It was around 8 or 9 in the summer, so the sun went down late, and I was up watching TV in the living room while my grandfather was in the kitchen cleaning up our dinner. I started to whistle a tone when I heard something smack the counter so loud I could still hear it. It was his hand smacking the counter so hard he grunted. I stopped. He stomped in the living room telling me to never whistle at night. I asked why. He said because they will mimic you. I had no idea at the time until I got a little older. That memory plays in my head constantly when I whistle. I never asked him after that, but I wonder, who are they? Why didn't I ask? If anyone knows about that, let me know ASAP. Thanks again, Steve. Sorry, that's all I have for now. Please continue to share your own advice and thoughts. It's always appreciated. Okay, Joshua, thanks for writing in, man. I'm glad you did. And why is everybody old? I don't know. You'll be there too, hopefully. There's a lot of people that write in about their experiences when they're a child. Don't forget that. A lot. And I think today, why are they all old? I think because back in the day it was taboo to basically talk about anything that wasn't cut and dry, right, in the community. I think that's why we have somewhat the freedom of the internet now and contacting each other and forming secure, safe places to share similar events in our lives. So, and the whistling thing, I've heard many First Nations people have always said they were taught to never whistle in the forest, period. It's just the way it is. So you imagine a lot of people out there, the original people of all the continents who experienced hearing the whistles in the forest and had those whistles accompanied by an 8 or 10 foot tall Harry being scared the shit out of them, excuse me, they would have went on to implement the rules of no whistling for sure. And that's where that would have originated without a doubt. And still carries on today with some people for obvious reasons, right? Because it was accompanied with the shits being scared out of them by something that wasn't supposed to be real. Heard something back there. But anyway, appreciate you writing in, man. Keep looking and keep learning. And hopefully you can as well find a group of people in person who all respect the fact that we are all being misled, we are all being lied to. Our education is a system that isn't correct. And hopefully the younger generation figures that out sooner than later and shares it amongst each other and searches out the truth and stands up for the truth, right? And not be scared of people, man. Try not to be scared of people ever, all right? Okay, let's get into this book I promised to read the other day. It's titled Australia, the Giant Hairy Guy, Puzzle Pieces, and Oh My God Experience. You're welcome to use my name, Lance G. The Oh My God Experience may be safer on your other channel. However, it's yours to share as you wish. 30 years ago, I used to go camping right up in the hills. The mountain range runs along the coast of Australia between Adaminaby and SW and the ACT boundary. This valley is surrounded on two sides by near solid cliff faces with a 6-hour hike around to get back to the farm his father owned. Anyways, I was with my mate who grew up there, and we were in an old hut camping on a 1,000-acre paddock. On this night after 6 p.m., it had not too dark as there was a full moon. So I took a shovel and ambled up to a nice clearing in the thick bush a few hundred meters from the hut. There was a gentle breeze into my face. I dug a hole as I had not built a toilet pit yet, so was making do. After I sat on a log in the dark enjoying the night, I was close by on the southern side of the clearing, which was only maybe 15 meters wide all up, when I started to hear a lot of noise coming from the direction of the big steep cliff. I knew it was impossible for any person to come down off of there, let alone an animal, and the noise I could hear coming down the cliff area for perhaps 20 minutes. First I heard it faintly, then progressively getting louder than anything I've ever heard in the bush. Perhaps a large deer coming along the sides of the base and then down. But the noise started getting really loud. Some large, huge thing was slamming through the brush. It was a hell of a racket, and trees were getting snapped off. I could hear it. The noise is like motion on 2 legs, not 4 legs. I was really intrigued, and though only a giant animal like a huge bull or camel, or even silly enough, an elephant, all which was not likely. Settling myself down, I decided to wait. As I was sitting motionless, nice and quiet, it would pass me by, but very close. So I waited, and then this giant, massive thing on 2 legs with 2 arms strode out into the clearing approximately 7 meters from me. I could clearly make out what it was. I shifted a fraction as absolute horror crawled up my spine. I realized and instinctively felt this was some unknown giant, savage, intelligent animal. It had just become aware someone was there with it. It seemed to pick me right out in the dark as something very close to it. It got very irritated and made a really low, aggressive, forceful sound. Hard to describe. Sound gruff/growl, but I got the intent loud and clear. I could feel the rage pushing at me and felt it was an impulse from a savage attack. It stepped to the right, literally soft-footed it to that side. That step seemed to cover approximately 4 meters. Okay, it's a little tough to read this one, so be patient with me, you guys. I'll do the best I can. It made no noise where it should have. Should on the dry bark and bush underfoot. I felt I had to announce my presence as approximately 1 minute had ticked by and it felt like eternity. I said, low voice and neutral, and very, very softly, "Steady there, fella, I'm sorry I startled you." To which it moved directly into the shadow of a large 600 diameter gum tree that was behind it, just at the edge of the clearing. It was well past the tree. I could see it okay, but the shoulders and part chest stuck out on each side of the shadow the tree cast over it. It was very surreal in the moment. It's standing in the open right in front of me, but it still stepped into the shadow of the large tree. It had the moon to its back and overhead, so it was mostly in silhouette. I reckon it was at least 9 feet tall or more. As I've seen that tree in the daylight, there was a large branch over 8 feet off the ground, and it leaned to the right to duck under the branch. It came past the tree trunk with a motion that came from the knees, with a weird walk, kind of like motion, instead of how we walk. He had covered the distance quickly. Then I saw its eyes gleam with an odd sheen. I was close enough to see a glint of intelligence. He had a very steely, ferocious glint that scared the absolute hell out of me. It was the conviction, if this thing wanted me, there was not a damn thing I could do about it. Nothing I could not outrun or scare it. I would have even not wanted to shoot it with a shotgun or a .303. Both we had, but in the hut, it's hundreds of meters away, and I felt that would do no good but piss it off more. God damn, this son of a bitch was effing gigantic. Huge. Like 2 American football guys across the shoulders and excessively thick through the body. Massive arms were long and thick, and the legs were massive, with medium long, browning hair all over. But the face was fairly clean looking of hair from its thick eyebrows to its lips. Its skin was not like an animal hide, more brown with darkish hairs. The face was like a human, just way larger, much larger eyes. And I like to read that sentence over again every time we hear it. Let's do that again. The face was like a human. Got that? The face was like a human. Just way much larger. Eyes, no neck, right into massive shoulders and chest. It was a male. Did not need to look down there to know. His eyes, they had a sheen in the moonlight, but the depth and color was nearly a hazel/purple, amazingly clear and intelligent. It was weird how I could look into his eyes and see the depths in them. It was like there was some sort of illumination from them. Possibly survival instinct kicked in, and I had a heightened perception. I had some sort of premonition to not share, okay, let me read that again. Sorry, you guys. I had some sort of premonition to not stare directly into both its eyes. That's interesting. I stared into his left eye deeply and intently. He's hunched over forward, staring down at me, and turned his face slightly to the left, giving a strange, piercing look. I seemed to be in some sort of a state, locked into his gaze, and things seemed to change. Weirdly, I started to read him somehow like images/information unfolded in my mind, super clear and detailed, of him and where he was going, which really badly scared me more as I felt he became aware of it. He gave me a very angry, pissed off sound. I felt, do not disrespect him. The big guy kept himself fairly clean. Funnily enough, I don't remember it smelling any worse than you or I. So he soon worked out what I was, and he circled around looking at me. So I had to do the same in the opposite direction. He seemed to be swaying and shifting around. So we moved around each other with me trying to slide around with the edge of the clearing at my back. Then he was between my escape to the hut and faint track I walked in from. I could dimly see. I was totally unnerved and close to losing it. No frickin' doubt. He seemed to be getting awfully close. I kept backing away without trying to make it obvious. Then he got what I was doing. So I stopped and just then felt my guts churning. I felt totally screwed in my guts. I knew I was effed. So I kept going backwards. Just as I was about to bolt, he moved towards me. Ugh. I flipped the toilet roll I had somehow been holding all this time up in a loop in the air towards his face to distract him. I'm probably the only guy to have toilet rolled a Yowie. And I ducked past him and bolted for dear life all the way to the hut to get the guns and bunker down. I screamed my mate's name and tried to alert him this thing was after me. I got back to the tin hut. I met my mate, so got armed, and he said I was as white as a ghost and scared witless. I had to convince him to arm and not go out there and stay away from the doorway and window frames. I was badly scared. I felt terrified that I was going to be taken, and what I had seen in my mind and in his eyes nearly made me lose my shit. I was going to go down fighting, even though I felt the guns and the two of us would make little difference. I can't forget that look he gave me. We did not get any sleep, but the dogs came and cowered under the beds. This thing, they wanted nothing to do with. Morning came and we went out and looked and found tracks and a path of destruction where it came down the bottom of the mountain. The nearly full toilet roll I flicked at him was nowhere to be found. I'll bet he could use that. Had nothing to record info with, just my mate to witness the rough prints and heavy path destruction of the bush where it came through, and the state of me and his dog's reactions. We tracked for a bit past the clearing and across into rough bush, but all of a sudden, poof, they disappeared, and we got uneasy. The next night we went out with guns. I would not have gone, but I was not going to let my mate go out there alone with it, or be alone there by myself. My God, I was scared to hell. But just had to suck it up, strap a set on, and go search. With torches, we went back up there with the dogs where it vanished. After 3 hours, the dogs let out a weird screams and whimpered and bolted for the hut. Uh-oh. Later, found them under our beds where they dug holes to hide. They didn't come out till daylight, but we did hear something in the bush was close by, and every animal sound seemed to stop. So after a bit, we left, but we were shouted all the way back to the hut. We both saw it partly silhouetted a ways from our hut, but it prowled around that night, and every once and again over the next few years, it gets very quiet at night. We told my mates, who was a farmer and axeman that had worked these mountains since he came back from the war, and he told us stories from the area, and not to go up into the Blue Lake at Devil's Hole, or we may not make it back. Basically, the axeman, the lumberjacks you call them, had terrifying experiences up there, and no one would work up there, even for a bonus. He also asked us not to report it, as there would be countless idiots all over his place. Well, much time has passed, thanks for place to get it. Well, much time has passed. Thanks for a place to get it off my chest. I've cut this down considerably as there was more to it, and my mate said I was gone for near 3 hours. He thought I had gone for a walk in the bush, which we did time to time. I seemed to have lost some time. Regards, Lance G. And it still continues. Losing time, that's a scary thing. It's happened to a lot of people, right? Other puzzle pieces, events. I have a few bits of possible puzzle I'll add, as I feel they may be important. As mentioned, I have had experiences with extrasensors perceptions. Just something I've been able to do as long as I can remember. That disturb me, as well, and others, when I've demonstrated being able to view others are doing behind my back in other locations. People get uneasy. There's stuff we can all do. It always happened without trying while chilling out. This I want to mention once happened while working in the mountains. I have a job in government, stop and go traffic. It was summer, there was no traffic for hours. To while away time standing there, I did an old Technic. A little tough here to read sometimes, you guys, sorry. I have job in government, stop and go traffic. It was summer, there was no traffic for hours. To while away time, standing there, I did an old Technic a native friend talked about. That is, listen to sounds around you. Try to focus each ear on different sound. Try to hear further and further out. follow those sounds, but relax, just listen. So I was doing this, and I became aware of a tapping on a tree quite a ways from me. I focused on it, and I felt my conscious mind go. I drifted down through from my top of head and felt everything expand. I could hear every sound, every beat of anything living around me. So I got curious of the tapping and scratching sound. It was so faint. Then I felt myself just flow there without my body. I just let it happen, and I floated out. It seems my being seemed to encompass a large area. I could see and feel every single thing in detail, and as I did, I felt my awareness expand outwards as far as I wanted. So, I went up to the sound 200 meters away. Down a steep hill was a giant gum tree. I came to the base, then the sound was up in the top area. I moved up there. I could feel, see, travel anywhere. How, I do not know. But I raised up into the treetop. There was 4 black cockatoos digging grubs out of the trunks. They could see me. It gave me a look like do you mind? And gave me a look like, do you mind? I could feel their minds and intense. The scratching I could hear was the grubs in the tree burrowing for safety and eating. I felt the grubs were aware there was something / danger there, but not where it was coming from, as the birds were outside of the physical tree and not visible to the grubs, but they were vaguely aware of something intent focused on them. Does this sound familiar? We are all infinite consciousness. We are all connected. My mind was blown at this revelation. I felt, do I continue or go back to safety? I went back, and as I did, I felt my awareness of all things growing smaller. This is the part what I think these beings can do and more. When I awoke, for a better term, I decided to walk down that steep bushy hill as I wanted to know, was I going nuts? Or was it real? I felt in my heart it was real, so I used what I had just seen to walk where I had never been. I pictured the area in front of my travels before I could see it and followed the path. I noticed that in the experience it was all the same. Oddly enough, when I walked around trees, boulders, etc., I could remember everything from each side as a single view encompassed it all. I walked to the tree and looked up. Sure enough, the birds were there. They were dropping wood and bark down on me, digging out the grubs. And they stopped and looked at me to say, "Oh, you again." Well, that's definitely different, and that gets the brain working, right? There's another title, The Oh My God Experience. Okay, the experience that destroyed my view / take on life more so than the big fella in the bush. You ask questions, so here we go. Question: are we simply here and that's it in the real world? Here's some puzzle pieces. What I really want to talk about. I'm a little concerned, as I'll explain. I was working on a train station in winter, in the early evening in the mountains. We had a train to take people through the tunnels up into the mountain ski resorts. A dark gent, like an Aboriginal man, was some African, but like none I've ever seen before, he was completely different. I was reading some sites on prehistory and found some images of heads of statues, like ancient Egyptians, and it was nearly a perfect fit for how he looked. Oh. He came and purchased a one-way ticket from me. I inquired where he was staying at one of the resorts. It was late, and I could get him a free over-snow transport as it was too far to walk. He had no luggage and was dressed like a 1930 English gent. Green waistcoat, an expensive silk embroidered shirt, dark pants, and a very nice black leather shoes. All his clothing seemed very old style, but of excellent quality. I looked at his complexion and how he talked and how he carried himself. He was perfectly well-to-do, and his skin was amazingly unblemished, and he had purple-ish / gray eyes. He was quite remarkable looking, like no Aboriginal people I had grown up with or had ever seen, and the clothes and style just did not fit modern times. I was working security, selling tickets at night. It was so quiet while chatting to him and studying him. Every time I looked at this guy, then looked away. I could not remember what he looked like. I was intentionally studying him, but each time I looked away, any description of him vanished. I tried harder and all but pulling a notepad out to jot down his description as I felt something outside of my control was happening to me. I was concerned but could not put my finger on it, and I was becoming concerned for him, as where he said he was going was remote, out in cold, and no houses, just a road up into a mountain pass between the ancient pillars was his destination. So I had a good conversation with him. He seemed amused that he said to me, "I can feel your concern for my well-being, and I thank you for it. I'm okay. I'm going to meet friends. They're expecting me." He seemed really thankful for my genuine concern for him. I replied, "Okay. I'm just making sure you're okay. Do you need help or assistance?" He said, "No. People are there at the stone pillars waiting for him." I said, the only stone gateway on the road to the mountain summit are two ancient upright granite boulders on either side of the road. I've heard locals call it the ancient portal, amongst other names. He used another name for it, and he said, it has been there since time immemorial in the far distance past, but it has changed much, along with the area used to be lush and much different. Basically, he was describing it being there and in use by many different beings. He mentioned quite a lot of information, and basically they were few and far between. Then he said many types of peoples and groups over a large time span had used it, and others had come and gone. It's fallen into disuse and from memory, though they can still use it to go to the other side or places where his people are waiting for him. Holy shit. I tried to keep nice and calm without trying to intrude, but trying to work out if he's a nut job. I wanted to ask him so much more, but I felt I would be intruding. But my core self told me he was telling me the truth. I wondered what the hell I had gotten into, but I wanted to know he was safe and there are people waiting for him. So I said, "You're telling me, as far as I can understand, is you're going through a portal to another realm or dimension. This is separate from the physical plane or something like that?" Why I had that concept idea, I had read Silver Canyon by Louis L'Amour. I think it was. He included native beliefs from American West he had collected and experienced. So strangely enough, I was open to his explanation. He said yes, but there's much more than that. There's many connections, both temporary, and permanent. Some lost, some in disrepair and no longer maintained, just used by the few travelers that come these ways. He did mention some other info and a brief outline going so far back it sounded like he had seen done much and seen so much. I felt he was very ancient, even though he looked past his prime but in perfect health. He mentioned going to the other side and passing through to his people. He stressed the word people and then smiled at me. Then he said, "I thank you for your kindness, and I tell you this, you will see me again when you are really, really old and close to the end of your life here in this place. However, I want you to remember I will look exactly like I do today, no different, and I will see you then before you die. Do you understand?" I said, "Okay, I'll see you then." I was in my 20s, so if I live to 100, that's around 80 years of my future. Sorry, you guys. I was in my 20s. So if I live to 100, that's around 80 years in my future. Mind was blown. He said, "When I'll see you again, you will be very, very old and very close to your time. Goodbye until then." So he goes up on the train, gets off at the top station, and walks out into the dark mountains, past all the people staying in the accommodation. I bring the police station up there to talk to the guy I know and explain, old dark guy going up this road area by himself, going to the stone portals. I explained where they were. He seemed unprepared and bought a one-way ticket. I'm concerned for him. Can he check it out? He says he will ring Snow Rescue and they can take track machine out to find him. Older guy won't get far. There's a few typos, okay, you guys? I'm sorry. There's just typos in here. Older guy won't get far walking. So I also rang them a few hours later, expecting them to report back. Found him and he was safe. These guys are experienced mountain search and rescue guys. They say, yes, they did see him 7 kilometers up into mountain pass over 1 foot snow, really cold, wind chill factor. They drive up on the road in the over snow truck transport, and somehow he beat them there on foot. They get to 40 meters of him. He's right between the 2 stone pillars. He turns around, smiles to them, and he waves at them, and they wave back. Then he just vanished. Gone, they walk up, following his tracks in the snow. They see where he turned around facing them and vanished. Nothing. He's not there. Just his shoe tracks filling with snow. They were on solid road. He's gone. This, the weird bit. They go back to base, report it to the police guy who I made the report to. Later, after talking to the 2 rescue guys, I say, what happened? He disappeared before your eyes? They said, yes, he did. I asked, is there a search? They say, nothing to worry about. But someone can't disappear in plain sight. So I ring the police guy, ask him. He says he's rescue guys. So I ring the police guy, ask him if he says. He says he's rescue guys reported he turned, waved to them, then disappeared before their eyes. I asked him, what are you going to do about it? He says, nothing. Matter's closed. People just can't disappear in front of 2 rescue guys. I say to him, does this not raise some red flags? He has reports. Me and 3 people saw him and camera footage of him boarding the train and departing, walking out into the night. Where is the guy? He goes on, nothing more, case is closed. He reported it and said no further action required. That's interesting. Really interesting. The guy assured me he was perfectly safe and protected, and judging by how he or they can shut us down and walk through our world gives me cause for concern. Still, after what you're doing, I decided to let her rip too, and to thank you for what you're doing. It means much more than you know, and to all of us that did not ask to see or know this. Perhaps waking up to ourselves is a part where we need to consider more. If we can work on using our abilities with practice, help may be closer than we think. Over the years, I told this story to several close people. Hippie guys goes, oh cool, you saw a ghost. Religious guy says, oh, you saw an angel. Military guys who's into top level stuff just goes, no, that's not possible. It did not happen. People cannot just disappear. So it depends on what your reality is perceived as it seems. Now I'm hoping Steve's helicopters don't appear over my place. Well, perhaps I'll know in 30 or 40 years. I'm 58 now. My heart and gut told me he was telling me the truth, and the changes in time span and events in this world and others was mind-blowing. His language was clear, concise, and factual. He was looking me dead in the eye and speaking truth. Reminds me exactly how you say it, Steve. Regards, Lance G. That is one hell of a share. There's a couple typos, and don't email me apologizing. It's okay. We all do it, okay, man? It's nothing. We got it read. We all understood it. How freaking interesting is that? Now, how the hell do you learn about those portals, those portal locations, and how the hell do you learn the knowledge it takes to possibly do that? Isn't that freaking bizarre? Well, isn't that freaking bizarre to us? Probably not to many other beings somewhere, right? Only because we're not taught shit. We are taught to be stupid. Yeah, I'll say it. We are taught to be dumb as a frickin' pickle. We are taught to not question. We are taught to not say things out loud, and especially today, we are taught not to speak on various topics, or else, right? Or else. Do not talk about this in the open, or else. Our freedom of speech, our freedom of gaining true actual knowledge is being systematically stripped away. It's frustrating. Very frustrating, especially if you are looking into what's going on around the planet like I do nonstop. But anyway, I won't rant about that today. I have a feeling all the people that actually really truly care, and they're looking, they're doing their own due diligence, they're looking and learning and watching, right? And the people that don't care are not going to care. I don't know if I can make people care or not myself. It is what it is. That's very, very interesting, man. That was very, very interesting email to me. Anyway, I'm glad you sent it to us. And you come across any other knowledge along your ride, be sure to email it in, all right? Share it. Even if you don't want to share it publicly, send it to me, because I crave knowledge. I crave knowledge at this stage of the game non-stop. And just so you guys know, all I do is listen to as many sources as I can while I'm working, while I'm doing my other activities. If I'm within service somewhere while I'm doing something, I'm listening to somebody share knowledge. That's what I do, non-stop. Wow. Very interesting. All right. I'm going to keep going. Recent picture of modern day human. Steve, a quick tidbit about the recent photo you shared with us regarding the modern day human. All right, that would have been a while ago, and somebody sent in, I think it was our scientist friends sent in a photo, or it's actually a drawing of what they feel. What was it again? Sorry, you guys. Modern day human, what they sent in a photo drawing of what they felt modern day human way back in the day would have possibly looked similar to. All right? Many of you remember that. If I can find that picture, I'll post it up again. But it might take a lot of digging. So, this is dated as well, July 28th, okay? Steve, a quick tidbit about the recent photo you shared with us regarding the modern day human. When you showed that picture on the screen, I got chills. That is so very close to what I saw at a lake here in Oklahoma. If you took that and crossed it with an orangutan, the one I saw had a little bit more hair on top of its head that was red in color. And the crazy thing is, this thing had a part right down the middle of its head, and its hair, not fur, hair, almost looked groomed. I could only see it from the chest, from about the chest high up. It was looking at me through some brush and trees and was fidgeting back and forth like it was trying to get a better look at me and what I was doing. This is the same area as my last email I sent you regarding the dangers of gifting food to these things. I would leave food, do 3 tree knocks, letting them know the food was there, and walk out. It was not long before things started going south and I realized what I was doing was foolish. Anyway, just thought I'd let you know this is very close to what we saw. Thanks for sharing the picture and all the work you're doing with these scientists. Prayers for Edgar. Hope he's doing better. God bless you, Steve, and everyone at the Round Table of Knowledge. Chris from Oklahoma. Chris, appreciate it, man. I'm glad you passed on the caution of doing what you were doing with the food and beating on a tree. And I absolutely agree. Care for what you attract, care for what you wish for, right? Okay, I got another one here that's, I'm going to let her rip one more, okay, guys? And I got to get home and take care of the rooster problem, and then I got to climb on the roof of the man cave and keep going. Hi, Steve. Hope you're well in all your relations. In one of your videos, a woman emailed that she was tribally enrolled. I, too, am tribally enrolled with the Seneca Nation of Indians from the border of New York and PA. I am actually Corn Planter Seneca Bear Clan that was forcibly removed from our homes in the early 60s to construct the Kinzua Dam. I was only of 6 at the time, and I was there when they desecrated our ancestral burial grounds. I wish I could say it was only a nightmare and not a reality burned into the heart of my being. The tribal enrollment, as I have come to understand it, began when our nation was forced to accept citizenship. It's the government's way of keeping track of us, you know. Not all nations have tribal roles, nor did all the peoples of any nation accept citizenship. I've read and heard over the years about these stories of great war between the Iroquois and the Stonecoats, and to be honest with you, Steve, I don't know anything about that. One because, well, I wasn't alive yet, and the other reason is that it's not the story I was told in my growing up. The elder that I asked about our way with the Forest Nation, only what I called them at the time, told me a story that rang truth to my spirit man. She told me that one time there were hard relations with the Stone Ones only because we were intrusive in their hunting grounds, and we were taking more than what we needed. I'll step off to a sidebar here and tell you that I was also told that one time humans and animals all spoke the same. This is until man got greedy. Then the animals willing sacrificed themselves to us, not for us. Two different concepts there. To us to feed our families. For us is greed, and greed comes from fear. Fear of not having enough, which means which means doubt in the Creator. That's an interesting statement. Okay, back on the main road here. Then there came a time when our men, out of their ignorance, killed too much, and they could not carry it all. A Stone One came into their camp and said he would show them how to carry it all to feed the village, if they made truce with him and not kill any more than they needed. Needless to say, they were a bit shit in their drawers, I would imagine, that this 9-foot being that covered itself in mud so that our arrows and spears could not penetrate to kill it. I can only imagine they fumbled, a resounding, "Damn, Skippy, we agree." I was also told when I was little, before the backwaters drowned our homeland, that if I was to ever see one, I was to not look it in the eyes, for it is disrespectful to look an elder in the eyes. They will know my heart and leave me be. I was told they were our elders, and they seen us as theirs because we do not know which one was here first. I tell you all that to tell you these things back in the early 80s, I lived in an area called Cook Forest. Now, being I was adopted off the reservation when I was a baby, but raised on and off the res as the white folk that adopted me were very close friends with my biological grandmother, to whom I'm named after. I was raised 25 miles southeast of Pittsburgh, Pennsyltucky, as my dad called it. And although very familiar with the woods, where we moved was forest, thick, dense forest in some areas. I was taught to hunt and didn't have any fear of the woods, but this was different. There was some logging going on not far from where we moved into, and sometimes I would get this weird vibe when I walked the path around a pond that was about a mile behind the house we moved into. I just shucked it off to be in new territory. Well, after several moves over several years and a failed marriage, my son and I moved into a little college not far from where I lived. When my family first moved to this area, it was blueberry picking time. My son, who was about 4, and our three-legged neighbor's dog went back by where this pond was to get us some berries. We were nearing the bushes when the dog started yipping and running circles the best he could on 3 legs around us, like he was trying to stop us from going any further. Well, I said, "Dumb dog," and we kept going. Now my son is starting to yip like the pup, and he kept pointing at this birch tree. It was standing, getting the sun in my eyes now, excuse me. It was standing, the tallest, and the brush was, okay, a lot of these words are abbreviated words all through it, okay? That's when I'm struggling with this one. They're not fully typed words or abbreviations of too many words, but I'm getting it. It was standing the tallest, and the brush was just too thick to make out much other than shadows. I looked and didn't see much of anything, but damn, what is that smell? I thought it might be from the old abandoned cabin in the outhouse, but this smell was coming from the wrong direction if it was the cabin. Then I see the tree move. Not the base of the tree, but up about 15 feet. It was swaying like it was being shook at the base. My first thought was a bear rubbing its back. But damn, that was one big-ass black bear. And then I heard and, well, I felt a branch get snapped. It was green as green could be, this branch, and it was snapped like a twig. Then I heard the grunting. It was very thick with underbrush and just thick forest stuff, but I could hear and feel the footfalls. I grabbed my little boy under my arm like a sack of taters and ran till I got to that old 3-legged hound. The smell was like something I'll never forget. My son was crying and shaking, and it was then that I remembered those elders on the reservations telling us stories of the stone ones. I went back the next day to see if I could see sign of this thing. No footprints. It was very marshy where it was, but I did see that branch. It had to be at least 2 inches thick, and as I said, green. Years had gone by since then, and I told the story. Years had gone by since then, and I told the story to a few folk. I got laughed at, as you probably guessed. I got ridiculed by others that questioned my intellect and even accused me of being drunk again. Been sober for over 32 years now. Good for you. So I kept this mostly to myself, or others that have told me their stories. Must have that kind of face, I don't know. Now in this day I live in a little town where they just instituted, you ready? A Bigfoot festival. And then folks wonder why no one takes these beings to be real. Yeah, no shit. Some folk are just out to make a buck, no matter what or who it hurts. And when their dogs, chicken, pigs, cattle, homes, barns, and territory get jacked up, well, karma, brother, karma. I don't take it so kindly that another town close by me has what they call an Indian festival. So, several years ago, when my youngest son and I moved out in a longhouse trailer in the middle of a beautiful field where the deer and the bear and the bobcat, mountain lion, and them damn friggin' blind-assed moles live, I told my son that I wanted the back bedroom because the bedroom window was about 12 feet off the ground, and I parked my motorcycle close enough that a stone couldn't fit through and peep in on me. Folks laughed and laughed. And then one day in the early fall of that year, 2014, my son takes our dog for a walk in the field, and he shoots me back a pic of a footprint. He wears a size 12, and this print is huge. Freaked us both up because I've raised my sons to respect all life and told them of our people's stories, even about shapeshifters. And there's another subject that I'll stick to my own, people's beliefs, because, well, that's my DNA. It's their DNA. A few years ago when my son came home from work, around, let's say, 11:30 p.m., he came in and said, "Mama, you got to come outside and hear this." I don't think it's coyotes. Forgot to put them on the deer and the antelope list. I went out the door, he just come in and I froze. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move. Time and all but what I was hearing stopped. It was the Sierra sounds. When I could move again, I came back in the house to get my phone to record it, but it wouldn't work. The battery was full, but the damn thing wouldn't record. I was not ever so scared, but not ever so filled with something I can't describe. It's the way of things, the spirit of the way of things. Orenda. It wasn't bad, it wasn't evil, it was just all this. It wasn't evil, it wasn't all that this being is represented to be. It just the F is. After listening to the people, as you call us, that have experienced these beings, I know some are ready to have them herded back into their alien ship back to Atlantis. I'm not an opinion person. If you don't have the experience, then you just don't know. I was taught that opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one, and sometimes they stink. And I add, and sometimes they're full of shit. But I was also taught that opinions make people sound like they know something they don't. I can only speak on what I know from my experiences. I have a friend whose husband makes these cut-out Bigfoot you see in folks' yards or in fields and such. I bought his first one and named him Salvador Sasquatch. I did it as a joke and to poke fun at these folk. Plus, it's hysterical when the tourists are spotting deer and they hit El Salvador. That means the tourists are spotlighting and they hit the cutout. I want to add here, where I live, there's a swamp not far as the crow flies behind this field where my longhouse is. And there's an area that is quarantined off that no one is allowed in. These many acres, I don't know how many, but it's a lot, is posted as some ecological study type of deal. However, Steve, ever so many months or so, these military jets fly over my place toward that restricted area. The kind of jets by the time you hear them, they're gone. There's even those big cargo jumbo super deluxe models that fly over. Still strange, I think, after hearing some of the stories you read. But here a few weeks back, As I sat out in the early evening with me dog, I was thinking, I wonder Salvador is an insult to you, speaking in my thoughts to them, if they were around. I heard as if it was listening to you read your email, yes. We do not look like that, or have you forgotten? I have no recollection in my conscious memory of seeing one, but then again, maybe I do, and I'm not ready to remember it. I told this voice in my head that I want to see you, but I'm afraid. The answer came, you know we are here. You do not need proof. And with that, I'll come to something my younger son asked me shortly after hearing them speak that night. He came home after work. He said, Mama, I wonder how many times I've seen Bigfoot and didn't know it. My answer, every time. Thanks, Steve, for the opportunity to write this lengthy email, but now that I got it out, I don't feel so damn constipated in my soul. In my soul, man. I won't be a tease and say, I've got more to tell you. If I did, I would, and I don't as of this date. I walk as my ancestors did with respect of all creation and keep my thoughts and my walk in a good way. Be well. Yahweh. Thank you in Seneca. Jackie. Jackie, I absolutely appreciate you sent me that email. Share with everybody. Wow. And there we go. So much to take in, isn't it? My God, so much knowledge to take in. It sucks ass that we've had it all kept away from us. It's unfortunate to hear the part of when your community was flooded out. Sucks. Sucks that it sucks that the divide. It just sucks the divide that has been intentionally. I feel has been intentionally thrown down on us. The divide from the people with that character flaw that I mentioned before. The character flaw of needing power control. Those are the evil pricks that have divided everyone. They've really divided us and the First Nations people a lot here in North America. The divide's sad to witness. I don't take part in it at all, and I do not have. It just really frustrates me at times to see the hate and the divide going on. No matter who we are, where we may have originated, because we are all connected. There's no way to deny it, no way getting around it. We're all connected. And what evil sons of bitches have done in the past shouldn't have anything. It shouldn't, but it does. But it shouldn't pit people against each other today, right? But it's going on nonstop. It's promoted nonstop. It's imposed on us nonstop. I'm over it. But anyways, I guess what I'm just saying is I hope that everybody, no matter what happened in the past due to the actions of some twisted evil sons of bitches, to not carry it on and impose it on innocent people today. It's just not fair. Everybody's got to start respecting each other and accept the fact that we're all connected and work together as a big, strong, kick-ass, happy community that isn't scared of anybody and fights the dark side together, right? There you go. How's that for a babble? Yeah. This place sure is lacking in life, isn't it, right now? It's just nothing alive around here. There's no food in the water. The bears are down at the other river. I think that should be an ample chunk of babble for today. And I will be back to sharing more tomorrow, I'd imagine. I'm going to wait a couple more days and I'm going to venture off into the middle of nowhere again and see what I can find. Anyway, my mind is racing. I've taken in so much. I take in so much from every single email. And taking in a lot nonstop anyway, but I'm babbling. I got to pick up my garbage, clean up my mess, carry on home. Thank you so much for the gifts from the people who mailed me in the gifts. And thank you so much to all the people who email in their knowledge. And please do not stop emailing it in, you guys, all right? You want to share it to the people through me, you can. Share on mystoryhowtohunt.com. And again, the backup channel is flying along. There's a whole pile of content loaded on there to launch each day from the past, and it'll be used if or when the time comes up, I get the spanking from YouTube on this channel, then all of the new content will instantly start getting loaded there. All right. So the link to the backup channel should be in the bottom comment section or in the description, and it is called The Round Table of Knowledge by HTH. Okay. I'll be back shortly.